Today we have Adam from California. He is the author of Creature Kids, Stories for Children that Teach Them About the World Through Fun and Cryptids. I'm really excited to have him here. I also teach creative writing, so this is a very exciting thing for me to talk to somebody who's doing it and doing something that I love. You can check out Creature Kids on Instagram. We're going to do a lot of plugging at the end too, Adam, because you've got a great big project. I don't want to tell people what it is right now. We'll do it at the end so they hang on and listen, but it's very cool. I love what you're doing. So Adam, welcome from Los Angeles. I've got a couple questions I'd like to ask you, but before I do, introduce yourself. Let us know who you are.
Well, I mean, first off, that was like star-studded intro. I'm flattered. I'm going to have to make sure that I just snip that little part out and play it on a loop when I'm feeling bad.
There you go. I love it.
I'm a hype man. Well, I'm Adam. I have two little girls. As a matter of fact, today, I'm not sure when this will come out, but today we're recording is September the 9th. Mm-hmm. And my oldest daughter, Abby, just turned 8 today.
Hey, happy birthday.
Oh yeah, she's happy. She got a dinosaur balloon and all that jazz.
Oh, the best.
I'll watch my language.
Not for me, you don't. It's okay.
Okay, that's good to know.
Don't worry about it.
But I have been fascinated by all things supernatural, cryptid. I think the term is fortean, which I'm just now learning. And I've always been into this stuff ever since I was a kid. And I'm very excited about introducing a new generation to that, but at the same time, introducing them, or at least opening the doorway to being open-minded as just a human being.
Love it.
Dealing with other human beings.
I love that. And is there, you say it was since you were a kid, is there any like one event that caused you to be interested in it? Or is there any kind of picture memory? For me, I was in 5th grade and in my grandmother's basement, and she had this crazy picture of this creature walking like sideways and looking. And obviously it was a Patterson-Gimlin photo. And that stuck with me for years and years and years. So I have an actual moment where I remember, oh, what is this? Oh,
that's right.
It's a Bigfoot. Yeah, it was very weird. And then I won't go into my story, but things since then. But do you have kind of like a flash of a picture in your mind of when it first occurred to you that it was a thing?
It all started with Ghostbusters.
Oh, heck yeah.
So, came out in 84, the first movie. I came out in 84. And we've been linked ever since. So when I started watching the animated series, they had an episode where the Ghostbusters were going to go camping, just kind of get away from it all. And there wound up being this huge electrical storm. And for those of you that subscribe to this particular flavor of Bigfoot, cool. A dimensional doorway was ripped open because of the electrical storm, and out came a Bigfoot. They ran into him, their equipment was going haywire, and the entire rest of the episode wasn't fighting some ghost or warding off some, deity from Bohemia or wherever. It was just trying to get this really scared Sasquatch back to his dimension. And that was my introduction to cryptids, was through the Ghostbusters cartoon. And ever since then, I remember being that little kid in elementary school, checking out all the Time Life books about UFOs and Mothman and all that stuff. And ever since that moment, I was probably 3 or 4. Yeah.
Wow. So it's always been kind of part of you, part of your essence, and part of something you've just been really interested in.
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
It's amazing. Have you had any kind of experience with any kind of cryptid at all?
Cryptid, no. Sad to say. Ghosts, yeah.
Okay.
Orb, whether or not you believe it's a ghost, yeah. But no cryptids. I've always wanted to, but I met my wife straight out of high school. I was 17 when we met, and it's just been running and gunning, trying to build a family and build a life ever since. So I never really had the time or, money to go do anything like that.
Sure.
But I've always wanted to. I've been invited to a couple of Squatching events. But even out in Arizona, we have family in Arizona, and they were telling me that around the outskirts of the Tucson area, around the Saguaro Desert out there, that there are sightings of chupacabra, and I've always been fascinated by that. But never actually took part, never saw any.
I think the chupacabra thing. I used to go mountain biking down south of Phoenix for a while when I was down there, and
Okay.
whenever I was out there, I always had this weird eerie feeling, and I always felt like something was following me. And I know that's not feels kind of weird. Found out later there was a mountain line that they had to go and take down. So and up here in the Northwest, we actually have had mountain bikers that have been taken off of their bikes by it. So you never know, but I find it fascinating. The Southwest cryptids always fascinate me because it feels like it's so open and there's no place to hide, and yet there is every place to hide, which is kind of cool. And then you have the Magellan beast, I think they call it, up on the ridge there, up north,
up northern Arizona.
Yeah, up by the canyon.
We were just out there, maybe 6 months back, right on that ridge.
Oh wow!
Visiting the asteroid crater, visiting all that stuff, and we were renting this little cabin and didn't see anything, but you know what? No, we did. It wasn't a cryptid, but I got a picture of a ghost in some ancient ruins that were just outside of the the meteorite impact. So yeah, that was really cool.
Now that's cool. I have not had a lot of paranormal experiences, but anytime I hear somebody that has a picture, I definitely am like, oh, show me. So if you want to send that along, I'd love to see that.
I'll have to preface it. I'll let you know what's going on with it when I send it. But because it was one of those, it's a very cheesy, because
that's usually the best.
It was the right moment. My family happened to be there when a Navajo elder was on site speaking in the native tongue, and his daughter was video recording him telling his grandson about that site and about how the people lived there. And there was this air vent that comes up out of the ground, a natural air vent. And he was telling the story of how this is where the winds come from and how they can be happy, they can be bad. And when he was a boy, he's seen the winds come out and create a tornado out of nothing. There was nothing going on, no storm, and a tornado would come. So it was a very interesting moment. And just as we were about to leave the site, I'm like, I have to. I know there's not going to be anything. So I did one of these and I took a selfie. And sure enough, right at the site of that vent, you can see a person standing there. When we all double checked, nobody was down in that. It was a multi-level, area, and nobody was even on that level anymore. So it was a very cool moment.
Oh, that's amazing. I would love to experience something like that. I would also kind of freak out if I experienced something like that. That would, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, I think if nothing else were going on, I'd probably get a little freaked out. But I think because the elder was there and he was talking, I mean, it sounds so, we're both white guys, so it sounds kind of corny when we talk about, Native American elders and stuff. But no, it was a very emotionally impactful moment, and so to have that kind of play out that way and have a photo like that to really, book in that moment was really, really something cool. It was something special.
It's almost life-changing in a little bit, perspective changing at least.
Yeah, it was very special. Later on, he started talking to me, actually, because we were about to leave at the same time, and his grandson was off dealing with, I think, helping his mom with the phone, trying to make sure the recording was good. And he started talking to me, but I didn't understand what he was saying. He's speaking native Navajo. I have no clue what he's saying. And the grandson comes over and he starts telling me, oh, he wants to make sure you understand he's doing this because he wants, the future generations to understand and respect. I'm like, no, I get it. I'm like, dude, I get it. It didn't even register to me to show him the photo because I already saw it. I checked that stuff immediately. It was just, it was a very special moment. I was kind of in a haze for the rest of that day.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love stories like that. So let's jump into a little bit about your writing. And I want to know about Creature Kids a little bit. And I'm sure I love getting off topic, by the way. So if we end up going down some other little rabbit hole, let's do it. I have no problem with that. But tell about the whole idea where you came up with this idea to create a book for children that was about cryptids. But you said something that really struck with me that I think is even more important, to be quite frank. is teaching kids about the world and teaching kids about each other, which that's kind of my mission in life too. I think we there's a stigma that comes along with cryptozoology or cryptid research, and it feels like a lot of it's put into one box, and I don't think it needs to be. I think we need to explore, and there should be hundreds, thousands of boxes because there's no answer. We don't know. So tell me a little bit about why this, and I know you've been interested, as you said earlier, but why you decided to do children's books and the thematic writing that goes behind it.
Sure. Well, when I was a kid, my happiest memories were in my room, sitting, I don't know why, but not in my bed, but on the floor with my back up against my bed, reading these picture books that aren't even in print anymore. We're talking about like the Clown Arounds and this book about pickles, where everything was made of pickles, like shoes were made of pickles, and this guy's tie was a pickle, and just weird stuff. But those picture books were very comforting to me. And so I've always been very much an adult that loved a good picture book. So when my wife and I had our first daughter, Abigail, I was very, very, very adamant that we're going to read like 15 books a day. And we're going
Right.
to, just because I love just stories in general, movies, TVs, a good song that is an actual storyline and not just, some pop and woo and all that. That's going to go great on YouTube. But I enjoy good stories. And I think that picture books, especially in the past 10, 15 years, have really started to focus on, look, just because they're a kid's book, it's a picture book, and you're limited to 600, 500 words, doesn't mean you have to talk down to them. It doesn't mean that they're not going to get it. And I think a lot of that comes from the sort of growing acceptance that comic books aren't necessarily just for kids. They're not written just for kids. So this concept of, yeah, there's a lot of pictures, it's a picture book, doesn't mean you have to dumb it down. And so I came across a lot of really good ones. Started listening to podcasts that were done by picture bookers, interviewing other picture bookers, whether they're artists or authors or both. And I really started getting into this idea of, I want to create stories for my kids. I didn't know how, I didn't know what I was going to do. But I wanted to create stories for my kids. And my oldest daughter told this story, I don't know how many times now. And I never get tired of myself. She had sort of made a comment, because I had a little stuffed Bigfoot, not recognizable as anything other than a Bigfoot. But she wasn't familiar with a Bigfoot, so she didn't know. And she said it was a monster. No, it's not a monster. It's a Bigfoot. It's Sasquatch. It's an animal. Just like you or me or a rabbit or an elephant. It's an animal. And so the whole concept started to sort of formulate in my head, like, a little girl meets another little girl, except the other little girl is a Bigfoot. And this whole, you call it a monster, and you hurt its feelings and stuff like that. And you kind of get the understanding of, no, we're all creatures, we're all, it very much came together when we were watching Sesame Street. And I don't know how familiar you are with Sesame Street, but there's one song in particular.
I grew up on Sesame Street.
Okay. So there was one song in particular that we watched on YouTube because she just started going through Sesame Street stuff on my phone on YouTube. And she was probably, I don't know, 3. I don't know how these kids, but we're sitting there and we're just going all Sesame Street stuff. I was trying to keep her happy for something. And it was the song We Are All Earthlings. And you had, puppet lions and puppet snails and humans and all these things just singing about how we all need to help each other out because we're all earthlings. And it all just started formulating in my head. And so just the concept of, right there on my shirt, there's no such thing as monsters. It just solidified. And I knew, okay, this is where it was going to go. I didn't know it was going to be picture books per se at first. Mm-hmm. But I knew that was sort of where my storytelling for my kids was going to go.
Why did you choose to name the main character after your daughter?
My daughter is a character.
Okay.
She has always been a character. She has been headstrong, but not in an argumentative way. She has been very brave in certain circumstances that otherwise would be completely understandable to not be brave and just back out of it. But she's always had a different perspective on things. I mean, her first concert, which was her request, was Kiss.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So I'll have to send you the picture of her in full on Star Child regalia at
Yes.
the concert.
Yes.
She's going to listen to this and she's going to get mad that I said it. But when I took her to the concert, about 50 feet in front of us was this secondary podium, and Star Child zip lined down, landed on the podium, and sang her favorite Kiss song, which is "I Was Made for Loving You."
Yes.
And she little tears rolled down her makeup face, and she was singing every word along. And it was just so that I'm like, you are a character. My daughter is a character. And so I thought I needed a human perspective to sort of play all of these concepts off of. So why not her? It's the right age range, it's the right character, it's the right persona. So it made sense for it to be her.
So when you write the books, are you actually picturing her in your mind as you write the story?
Oh yeah. And I'll bounce ideas off of her. Back when I had a different work schedule, we would go on walks throughout the neighborhood, me and her and her sister, and we would just like spitball ideas, like what would happen if this, and what would happen if you saw that, and it was a lot of fun. So no, a lot of the stuff in the books is very heavily dependent on her perspective of things.
Okay. When you write these stories, I'm assuming they're all fiction, but it sounds to me like there's a bit of a truth element to it as well. You know what I mean? And when you're talking about how creatures, because we're creatures as well, how creatures interact with each other. I know we can all say, well, these are fictional stories and all that, but do you really feel like you're telling a fictional story? I mean, obviously a plot line probably is, but or do you feel like you're actually creating something that could be?
I feel very much like it's metaphor based on reality. Because with cryptids, there is this whole secondary element that a lot of people don't think about, and it is the culture the cryptid comes from. People, they talk about Sasquatch, or they talk about the Wendigo, or they talk about the Yeti, which, I mean, one perspective or another, people can describe them as somewhat the same thing. Maybe the Wendigo, maybe not as much, but they're very different, and the cultures they come from are very different. So in the books, the creatures are very closely tied to representing the cultures that created or introduced the concept of that cryptid. The chupacabra in the stories, Tony, his family is from Puerto Rico. And there is the Jersey Devil. This guy right here, he's my favorite. I have to say that.
I love it.
Who is very much a Jersey kid. He's 10 years old and he has that Jersey kid swagger, that attitude. So the characters that I have, the cryptids, they're sort of doorways for the kids and parents that read it to also glean a little bit of the cultural aspect that originated that cryptid. So I definitely think that there is the fiction aspect of it, but hopefully that fiction is preserved in metaphor enough for people to get the reality of a culture from it. And not just areas, but I don't know how into detail you want to go about specific stories that that are written but haven't even been transcribed into that format yet. But there's Rougarous from Louisiana that are two mommies. So there's cultural aspects in a lot of different ways in a lot of these different characters.
It sounds very inclusive.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, you're speaking my language, because that's what I love. I think, regardless of what somebody thinks or what somebody, we're all about just looking out and seeing what's in front of us. And it is, rather than what it should be. And I think that's a really important aspect you're teaching. It's great. It's a social emotional learning for kids is what you're doing, and I think that's fantastic. How long have you been working on these books and the stories with Abby? That is.
Well, I think I first started. I basically wrote 12 different books, all in this series, all on my cell phone while at work. Sorry. But this started probably about 7 years ago when I was working in a train yard. I don't work there anymore, but I was manager in a train yard. And that's where they really started to come together, where I really started to solidify storylines and things like that. And they were originally written with the idea of sort of pitching it as an animated series on like Netflix or something. So it was much more long form, much more dialogue driven. And after I had an illustrator, my cousin, sadly, created some great art. I mean, amazing art that I will always love. But for personal reasons on her end, she wasn't able to commit to the project. So I had to really start thinking about how I can retool this. And that's when I thought, well, picture books, I can self-publish. I just have to find an illustrator.
Right.
So that's when it really started to take shape in that. And so that it started about 7 years ago, and I didn't really get into making it a picture book format until maybe about 4 or 5 years ago.
Do you have a specific illustrator you use?
Yeah. Actually, her name is Millie Sherman, and she is on Instagram @_MK Sherman. I first found her art through just the rabbit hole you go down when you're on Instagram sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And her art was in sort of like a Sunday comic strip format, but it was you could tell it was very autobiographical. There was a Sasquatch who was moving away from the home and the family that they knew, moving to another state. And so the comic strip sort of went through that way. And so there was a lot of genuine emotion that you could feel in that art style. And it wasn't oversimplified art, but it definitely wasn't too graphically detailed. It was, clean line art, moderate shading, somewhat realistic looking characters. And it was, I just thought the emotion behind it, the connectivity of that art was perfect for it. So I reached out, and luckily she was on board.
That's amazing. And I would assume because you have that in common, that kind of approach to, well, you saw the Sasquatch story or the pictures, that probably is what drew you in the most, I would assume.
Oh yeah. What was funny was that her representation in her story was, they weren't all Sasquatch. They weren't all Bigfoots. Like, her friends were Mothman and the Jersey Devil. And so there was already like a very obvious ability and talent and I think appreciation for the visual aspect of these different cryptids, being maybe a little bit more I don't know, humanoid, anthropomorphized, or however you want to say it. And I think that the ability to get the level of emotion that she did, at least for me, get the level of emotion that she did out of that artwork of these characters was, it was perfect.
That's fantastic. When you find a partnership like that, you got to hold on to it if you can.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I believe in the creative process. I also believe in failure. It leads to success. So I guess, that's where you go with it. What current project are you working on?
Okay. So right now, we are working on getting this first book published. It is the first book in the Creature Kids series, and it's called There's No Such Thing as Monsters. Very heavily centralized around the initial meeting of Abby, the human character, and Minnie, the Sasquatch character. There's certain cultural aspects with that. I'm actually I'm a member of a native tribe in Oklahoma called the Potawatomi. And Minnie is actually short for Meenan, which means blueberry. My daughter's tribal name is Nikeko Meenan, which is Sister Blueberry. So there's that aspect. And they meet because they were both out collecting blueberries one day. So it's all about that initial meeting, that initial jolt of this isn't the world that I'm used to. This isn't something that I'm used to interacting with or seeing. There's name calling, monster, and then there's finding that common ground between the characters as well. And it opens up each character into each other's worlds. And so that's the basis of the first book. And it just really sets up the concept of there's way more out there. There's way more out there. I've always been a fan of there's a Shakespeare line that I didn't know until I saw it on a Batman cartoon. And it was, there's more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. And at the time he was talking about a demon, but I think it's very, very important to understand how that applies to the real world, to people of other cultures, other religious beliefs, other socioeconomic backgrounds, everything, every flavor of human being. Not that you should eat human beings. That's frowned upon.
Wrong kind of flavor. Yeah.
But so the first book is really just that. It's opening the door for kids so they can just kind of see what's on the other side and offer them the opportunity of look, if you want to come through, I'll take you through and I'll show you around. And the other books are going through the door and showing them what's around without being preachy. I think a lot of picture books, a lot of things that are made for children fail when they become too preachy. And if you just focus on the characters in the story and have the lesson just there, it doesn't need to be
any kind of agenda pushed. It's
right.
Just get the story there. And what I like to think about that is the most successful author, in my opinion, is that which can portray a great story and not have to push any kind of moral or lesson or whatever they want to learn or teach. And it just comes naturally to the reader. It just, they kind of, oh yeah. And I think when people have to analyze the lesson that they've learned, I think that sometimes does less than when you just read and it just absorbs into you. And I think you're right on track. I love that. I think that's fantastic. I would like you to introduce me and people that are viewing this on YouTube to Abby. So I've got some pictures here I wanted to show you.
Sure.
Let's see here if I can get it to. Yep, there we go. All right. I don't. So we are looking. Can you see this right here?
Yes, I can. That
Excellent.
is Abby.
That is Abby. These are adorable pictures. I think I see Minnie there as well. So for those of you that are listening, there's a couple pictures up. These are illustrations right out of Adam's project. And there's a really cute little Mothman there. I just want a stuffy of him. He's adorable. But tell us.
That's a female.
Okay, a female. All right.
Ingrid.
Ingrid, the moth girl.
Moth girl. Yeah.
Moth girl.
Daughter of the infamous Mothman.
Ah, very cool. Very cool. Well, tell us about these pictures right here.
So the central photo is actually at the central and for you, the right photo of Abby sitting crisscross applesauce. Those are both versions of her by my cousin, the initial artist. They were based directly on photos of my daughter. And it's funny because you can see in these photos the evolution, the age progression of the character and my daughter. So yeah, initial concepts, great stuff. I loved it. And then on the left, you can see Abby at her current age. We're looking at 8 years old. And this is from Millie Sherman, the current illustrator. And this was a snip taken from a much longer formatted image of all the characters standing together. But yeah, it makes me smile every time I see it because I see my daughter in it. I see her personality in it. She's all the way to the ponytail on the side and the front. Ever since Frozen, convinced that if you're going to go out with a ponytail and it's not just to keep your hair out of your face or off your shoulders, it's going to be in the front. And her with Minnie, who Millie designed with this really cute heart-shaped nose that I absolutely adore. And Ingrid, the moth girl. So that right there is a very, very good example of what I was saying. You can see the emotion, you can see the connectivity between, the reader and the characters. It's very welcoming, it's very warm, and I really love that about that art.
I'm drawn in immediately when I see these pictures. They're just beautiful. These are now we're looking at your daughter. This is Abby.
Yep.
Is that right?
That's Abby in the green shirt,
Okay.
wearing a shirt that I made for her. Millie designed it. That came originally from line art that she did, no color fill in, specifically for a coloring and activity book that I threw together to put on an Etsy and kind of raise funds for the project. But she was very happy to color it in so I could put it on a t-shirt for my daughter. She was obsessed with that image. So we got that for her.
I love
and
it.
Next to her is my other daughter, her sister Lucy, sporting Connor, the son of the world famous Nessie.
Mm-hmm.
And with the title of the first book, There's No Such Thing as Monsters, she will show up in a later book, and she has requested to be a Fresno Nightcrawler.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't even want to show up as a human. She doesn't want to show up as Abby's sister.
Lucy
she wants to be a Fresno Nightcrawler.
Lucy the Nightcrawler. I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Wow. Well, I think what's so great to look at these pictures and look at the smiles in your daughter's faces, they're proud of their papa. You can tell. They love what you're doing, and I think that's so special that you're sharing this with them. It looks to me like they feel like they're part of this project just as much as you are. Do you get that
very
sense?
Much.
Yeah.
Oh, very, very much. As a matter of fact, Abby has had many discussions with me that when the book is made, and we have a market night here in our town, and I'll pay, I'll have a booth, and I'll, get my goods out there, that she wants to do an appearance as Abby from the book.
Yes.
So I'll have to have that pink shirt with the yellow heart made so she can wear that, and we'll get cardboard standees of a couple of the other characters so kids can take pictures with them and her. And she sees herself as she wants to help me by being the character in the book for other kids.
Oh, that's fantastic. You got your own kids marketing for you, and I think that's just beautiful. That is really, there's so many authors out there that I'm finding that children's authors, and a lot of them are picture book authors that don't either involve their kids or don't have kids. And you've embraced it. I mean, you've made this the whole kind of premise, which I think is very personal. And this is why I'm drawn to books like this, because I like to know more about the author. I like to know, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but I think knowing about the author and knowing about the motivation and the background can have such an impression on people, and it's really powerful. I'm really excited. I'm gonna have to grab some of these books here. So tell us. I've got a couple more pictures here before we
sure
jump into. I've got some other cool questions.
I'm just sitting here grinning at my daughters.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so I jumped pretty quick there. So there's a close up of Minnie with a cute little nose. I love that. This looks like a different illustrator.
Yes, this was my cousin again.
Okay.
And a lot of you can see the hair flip on Minnie there.
I do.
That was created by my cousin, was sort of adopted by Millie. There were certain aspects that she really wanted to keep because she liked, and I love that. I'm very grateful for that. Mm-hmm. And she is hugging the original concept for Ingrid the Moth Girl, very heavily based on an actual pterosaur that, when its wings are expanded, looked very, very similar in coloration and pattern to a moth. So we came up with this concept, my cousin and I, of what if it's this pterosaur that as it grows up, the eyes stay red and the wings get bigger, and it just looks the way the Mothman is described, but it's a real animal.
Wow.
So, we were very heavily drawn into the make the cryptids as real as possible.
Sure.
At that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Another picture of Minnie embracing. Now, this is the one that's on the t-shirt.
Right.
So big Minnie embracing little Abby, which is adorable. And then this on the right, this looks like they're all dressed as Scooby-Doo characters. Is this
they
what
absolutely
I'm
are?
Okay.
They absolutely are.
I thought so. Yeah.
This was artwork, and you talk about my kids being involved. I asked my daughters, I said, if the Creature Kids dressed up for Halloween, they dressed up like the Scooby Gang, who would dress up as who?
Aha.
This is what they came up with. So you have Connor, the plesiosaur, as Scooby. You got Minnie as Velma. I'm absolutely 100% drawn to Tony the Chupacabra in the back as Shaggy. I dig that so much I can't even put it into words.
It's adorable.
And then the favorite, which a lot of kids nowadays don't know, is down there you have Ingrid dressed up as Scrappy Doo.
Scrappy Doo. That's right.
And this artwork was done by Millie specifically for the same. It's sort of an alternate cover to the coloring and picture book that we came out with a while back. But this one is for, I printed out 250 of them and I'm handing them out for Halloween.
Oh, so that's amazing.
Oh, no, it's not amazing.
No, it is.
It has all the info on it. Like, go to this Instagram account. The Etsy shop is this.
Yes, but you're not giving kids rotting things. Well, you may be giving candy too.
Oh, no, we're definitely handing out candy.
Okay, I was going to say, well, don't go crazy,
Yeah, my house was, for 8 years, we had a maze. My wife and I operated a maze on our property. And we did it because we had kids, so money and time went away.
I get it.
But we can't go from that house to the house that no longer gives out candy. Can't do that.
No, can you imagine? You might get eggs all over your window. Adorable. I love that you've got Daphne, your daughter, dressed as Daphne.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's really cool. And Fred is the Jersey Devil, I'm assuming?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Dominic the Jersey Devil.
Dominic the Jersey Devil. Well, please go on and look at these. If you're just listening, check out the YouTube video that accompanies this podcast because these illustrations are to die for. I have moments. I have to be honest, Adam. I have moments where I'll be out in the woods and I've spent a lot of time out there. I'm going to hike Ape Canyon in 2 weeks. And I will.
Good on you.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. It's actually not too bad. It's only 11 miles round trip from the trailhead, and it's only about 2,000 vertical feet, so it's not too bad. But sometimes you have your moments where you're out in the woods and you get a little creeped out or something. I just want to tell you that if that ever happens, I'm going to picture Minnie. That's what I'm going to do. She's a big cuddly Sasquatch. Yeah, I love it.
She has a whole family that I hope to have more visually involved in the stories as they go. Her aunt and uncle are going to be her uncle's going to have all black fur that you won't be able to see his eyes, but he'll have on big red sunglasses. And
that's cool.
Her aunt will have an unusually probably dyed red fur.
Okay.
And they are based on Ozzy and Sharon Osbourne.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of head nods for the parents built into these stories. There's one story with Connor that is a play on the entire Highlander movie. Oh. So there can only be
one,
You know what? No, there can't.
You're right. Let's change that quote, shall we?
The title of the book is actually There Can Be More Than One.
Oh, that's great. I love what a great play on words. That's awesome. Oh, yeah. Good stuff. Okay, and this is a close-up of Moth Girl. Ingrid, I believe it was. Ingrid the Moth Girl.
Yeah, I'll play on Ingrid. Ingrid Cold.
Indrid. Is it Indrid, you said?
No, Indrid Cold was the smiling man that was tied to the Point Pleasant incident and Mothman.
Okay.
So it was a play on that. So her name is Ingrid, very kind of Swedish sounding, but yeah, she's named after her uncle Indrid.
I think what I'm picking up a lot on is that you are tying in some very important facts from these cryptids into the stories, including the name, and that takes research. And I appreciate that. You're not just picking a character and then going out and recreating as we see so many people doing. This right here. So we've got some stuffies.
These stuffies, I am in love with these stuffies. So if you know Lisa from Cryptic Comforts.
Okay, yes. She's actually up here in Washington State, I believe.
I think so. Yeah. Well, is she back? She was on tour.
Yeah. I don't know her. I've not met her. I hope to meet her someday. She's only about 3-hour drive for me, so maybe someday we'll talk.
Very cool person.
Yeah.
My daughters have purchased for me on Father's Day and my birthday stuffies from her shop. I have a Mongolian death worm. I have a chupacabra. I have a night crawler. So I have a lot from her shop already. And I hit her up about the possibility of her doing some exclusive stuffies based on the character designs from the books to sort of help the Kickstarter campaign to get the publishing money. And she was all for it. So this is a perfect example of what a few of the people that have pledged will be getting when the Kickstarter goes through. I'm absolutely. She even has Tony's little satchel. He carries that with him everywhere.
I see it. Yeah.
And I don't know how well you can see the detail on your screen, but if you look at Ingrid's eyes, it was a very happy mistake that something went through in the pattern when the eyes were made. They have sort of a crosshatch design built into them.
Yeah.
Which is very moth-like, very bug-like to me. And I'm like, she sent me the picture. She goes, do you want me to fix it? I'm like, no, that looks awesome.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. Well, this is a great transition because the next thing I wanted to talk about is your Kickstarter campaign. And you kind of just started that. And I think it would be really good for listeners and viewers to know what you're doing on how we can help you get going and basically what your end goal is in this campaign. I know you're right in the thick of it right now.
Yeah. So we have at the time of recording, I hear that so often. Now I get it.
Right. Now you get it.
At the time of recording, we have 19 days left.
Okay.
And we are, thanks to Greg from All the Weird, he put us over the $1,000 mark. So very grateful to him for that.
Thanks, Greg. Check him out on Instagram as well. All.the.weird, I believe.
Absolutely. He just posted, I think he changed his little his picture to the ghost portrait that he had commissioned for himself. So cool.
It's very cool.
I'm a little jealous. But yeah, so we are about 31% to goal. I'm working on some more stuff. At this point, Lisa has offered her services again. We're sort of helping each other out a bit because the Point Pleasant Mothman fiasco, got canceled again this year. So a lot of vendors are left with a lot of stock that they were not planning to have right now.
Sure.
So she is helping out we created a special pledge, $50, and you get to choose one of several of the stuffies that she still has. And there's some awesome ones. I mean, she has a Snallygaster. That is amazing. You don't hear about that on the West Coast at all.
No. The only reason I've heard of it is because since I just joined Instagram, honestly, a year ago, not even a year ago, 6 months ago with Pacific Northwest Sasquatch Shadows. And that's the first time I'd heard of Snallygaster.
Oh yeah.
So it's not very commonly talked about out here.
No, but Sarah from Manic Pixie Dream Ghouls is very, very adamant that the world needs to know about the Snallygaster. And that's how I got to know about it. But yeah, Lisa, she created a stuffed one, and that's one of the choices that people that pledge $50 can pick if they want a Snallygaster as their stuffed animal. So I've been getting a lot of great support on Instagram. So many people have been helping out, whether it's pledging, getting the word out, offering help, and really cool rewards for people that pledge certain amounts. Very, very, very helpful. I can't even explain how just how tight, how close knit the cryptid fortean community is on Instagram. It's really amazing. It's something special.
Yeah, it is. I have made friends that I would never have met. And I understand it's Instagram, it's social, but social media, but there's something about that because you have something in common, and we may not all agree on the same thing. We all have different ideas of what anything is. But for the most part, I would say there's respect. Now, I'm not going to get into the toxicity that also comes within the experts in this field or the experts in that field, because we all know that's there as well. Yeah. But what I really am encouraged by is to see these collaborations, working with Lisa from Cryptid Comforts, doing all these, having all these opportunities for people to come together. It's a great example to our kids, isn't it? You could say, oh, this person helped me with this and this person helped me with that. And you can work together. And especially, I would have to say, since we all been kind of locked away, the world is kind of coming back out, although you and I, we're on the West Coast, so it's not going to come out as fast as it is in some
Yeah.
places where it never went away. But we
I'm surprised we don't have to wear a mask for the Zoom call.
I know. Well, I've got I about 6 feet away from anybody. I'm more than that. So I think it's important to realize that even in the darkest of times, there can be light. And I think that's what this is proving. So if people want to get involved, if they want to sponsor, if they want to get one of those Snallygasters, if they choose that, where can they go to help with your Kickstarter?
Well, it all comes down to the Instagram. It's at Creature Kids Books, all one word, no dots, no underscores, no frills, at Creature Kids Books. And from there, I have a link tree that has a link to the Kickstarter. If by the time this is out, the Kickstarter is wrapped up, there's also a link to the Creature Kids Etsy. And all of the money that's raised on the Etsy also goes into the production of these books, whether it's the first one or, fingers crossed, the rest of the series.
Sure. Well, I'm excited. You said earlier that you've done self-publishing. Is that the goal for this, or are you hoping to be picked up by a publisher?
So kind of a little bit of both.
Okay.
I will be self-publishing this, and I am hoping to get it into many bookstores as possible. Obviously, there's very specific reasons, like I'm choosing the publisher that I am because they do hardcover. And the only reason I'm so adamant about hardcover is because you can stand it up. You can face it out to people walking by. You don't have to lay it flat or put it in the middle of a bunch of books where people might not read that spine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that if you're familiar with Disney Channel Vampirina, Little Girl Vampire and Her Family started off as this beautifully illustrated, wonderfully written 2 or 3 book series. Vampirina the Ballerina, and then Vampirina Goes to School, Vampirina at the Beach. But they were not Disney owned originally. It was this person that self-published the first one. Then they got picked up by a really great publishing company. And then from there, Disney found it, heard about it, said, let's make a cartoon. And now, it's that kind of a thing. So yes, there's important lessons to be learned. And I want to show children and their parents that there's a whole slew of people out there, situations out there that they should be aware of and be welcome to. I'd also like to make a little bit of money for my family.
Well, sure.
Yeah. But no, so yeah, the short game, self-publish, try and get it. One of my biggest goals is to read my own book in my old elementary school library to a class.
Oh, can you imagine?
Some of my fondest moments in my old school, Franklin Elementary in Redlands, California, was being in my 3rd grade class and sitting in front of the short stacks and having our librarian read Jumanji to us. I have such a vivid memory, and I would love it if I could go back to that library at that elementary school and read to a 3rd grade class.
And your book.
It'd be awesome. So yeah,
that's really cool. Well, I will tell you this, you're putting that energy out there. So when that happens, I can't wait to see, and I hope you get video of it when it happens. Not if, because this is not an if. Looking at your artwork, at your stories, not your artwork, but looking at your product. I'm really excited for people to see this, and we'll be posting on my Instagram as well as yours, different opportunities for people to see some of the illustrations. So yes, again, it's at Creature Kids Books is where you want to go and check out Adam's stuff. So Adam, we're going to do something now. We're going to go and jump to another thing I do with all guests on this, because I believe that people need to know who you are, because I want to know who you are. And this brings us down to we all have different opinions. So I've got a little something special for you here. 4 questions. 4 questions.
4 questions with Russ.
Okay, so I'm going to ask 4 questions that'll give listeners a little bit more insight into who you are. Kind of like James Lipton from the Actors Studio, the great James Lipton. What a great show. I'm not going to. Yes, I won't ask you if
you can't give me the dead stare while you ask me the questions.
I can give you the dead stare. If there's a God, What will he or she say to you? No, I won't do that. I don't really have a good James Plimpton impersonation. Rest his
That's okay. Neither did he.
Yeah. Will Ferrell did. Will Ferrell
has a great impression of anybody.
Yes, except himself. I don't know how he does that. Okay, so question number 1. What music conjures memories to you or for you, and why?
All Star by Smash Mouth. Very specific. It hit me at the right moment in my life. Mystery Men, the movie just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Bad movie, fantastic movie. I'm in love with it. And that song was the main song of the film. And it just hit me at this perfect moment in my life where I was walking everywhere, just discovering the mall, going through a neighborhood I'd never been through before. And
are you talking about All Star?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, All Star by Smash Mouth.
That's probably the only Smash Mouth song I know, but okay.
Oh, dude, you're missing out. But no, that song in particular takes me right back to having my headphones on and walking to this Northern California. I think the name, like, not Sun City, Pleasant City, Pleasant Valley, something like that, up in Northern California. And walking from my uncle's house to the mall and walking around the mall with my headphones on, and probably every third song was that song. So it's a very vivid memory, and that song always takes me back to that.
I love that. It's
a pump up song, man.
Oh yeah, totally. If you're a 90s child, right? Late 90s, wasn't it? Late 90s.
That came out, I want to say 90, 98.
Yeah.
98?
Yeah. Okay. Question number 2. What is your favorite paranormal or horror movie, if you have one?
Oh man, see this. Okay.
I know it's hard.
Right now, the best flavor is the original Hellraiser.
Yes, I just have been getting into Hellraiser again.
Have you read the book that it was based on, Hellbound Heart?
I have not.
Okay, it's a short book. It's like a novella by Clive Barker, and you can see very, very much how the movie is almost completely that book. But there's so much richness to it, and this concept of these things that, again, it's all about perspective and culture and understanding.
Yeah, right.
It's this whole concept of these things that the main character sees as evil and demons and all this.
The Cenobites.
Like, we're angels to some, demons to others. We don't recognize you're good and evil. We don't even, it has no relationship with us. It's just a mind-blowing concept. And because of that, the whole story is that much richer, whether it's the book or the movie. Even the second, maybe even the third movie still sort of plays into that concept. And then you get into the weird Hellraiser movies that have no place in anybody's life.
Yeah, kind of like the weird, well, I'm not going to say it because every Halloween movie has a place in somebody's life. But when you get into the, I don't know what to think. I don't want to ruin anything. I guess when you get into Friday the 13th series, they kind of spin off after a while and you go, wait a second, you know?
Well, see, I really liked the first 3 Friday the 13th films, and the reboot film was phenomenal.
Yeah. I have yet to see the reboot. I never did. I never brought myself to do it, but I think maybe it's time. I have named one of my fantasy football teams is Jason Voorhees or Voorhees. Yeah. So, and he's losing tonight because I didn't play Brady. So, you know, it's really hard to play Brady though. And, you know, as a Seahawk fan, it's very difficult for me. Yeah. Screw that.
I can understand.
Yeah, but no, I that's great. I think I will check out the novella. I'm very curious about that. Number 3, in your spare time that is not related to the paranormal or to cryptid writing or producing these books, anything exploring, what do you like to do?
What do I like to do? I really like watching documentaries. I just got done watching Val, the recent documentary on Val Kilmer's life.
I need to see it.
Heartbreaking, but so rich. I'm very much a fan of philosophy. And so when you have a documentary that can genuinely dip into somebody's personal philosophy on life without, hey, this is a documentary on somebody's philosophy on life, it really hits. That one was great. There's one, I think it's called Stories About Bill Murray. It's a documentary that was produced all about like these crazy stories you hear about Bill Murray. Like, oh yeah, he was at this college party and I walked into the kitchen and he was there washing dishes, like out of nowhere. Like,
Yes.
what is Bill? Yeah.
I've heard this.
So
I've
this
heard
documentary
this. Yeah.
collects all these stories and
Mhm.
researches them, and you find out they're all true. Every single one of them are true. And in the process, you, like, probably about 2/3 of the way through the movie, you really start to understand this is very much a part of Bill Murray's personal, like, spiritual philosophy.
Mhm.
And you get to understand the thread through all of his films. Like, he won't do a film unless it connects to that philosophy specifically, and you get to see that. So stuff like that I'm really into.
I love that. It's almost a different perspective. So sounds a bit independent too. Like you may
is.
have a draw toward the independent.
I love it. I love independent film. I love independent small town monsters, dude.
Mhm.
Love their stuff. But yeah, I'm very much into the independent documentarians. Sounds so fancy. Because I think they don't have anything to lose. You know, they don't have some studio that they're trying to please. They don't have some budget they're worried about blowing. They're nitty gritty, man. They're getting it done because of the passion of what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Last question for you. If you could go back into any time in history, what would it be and why? Not necessarily live at that time, but go visit and observe that time. Or live, whatever. There's no wrong answer.
It's a bit of a rough one. I mean, there's a lot of people that I've wanted to, you know, it's almost a play on that. If you could play poker with any four historical people, who would it be and why? You know, but I would probably want to go back to, it's going to sound so corny, but I probably want to go back to the time where I want to go back in time to understand how the whole Jesus thing happened. Sort of like, okay, have you ever seen the rock opera, the classic rock opera, Jesus Christ Superstar?
1,000 times, and I've sung Jesus's Gethsemane.
Dude, awesome. Yeah. All right, so
that's a hell of a
Judas's point of view.
Yeah,
he's just baffled.
Yeah,
he doesn't get it. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, if that was your whole point, then why didn't you do it here or there or this time? And I think observing it would put a bit more perspective on things, not just from a historical point of view, but again, it ties into my love of philosophy, all philosophies.
Sure.
So yeah, I think not because I have any big religious bone to pick or something to prove historically. I just want a little bit of clarity on that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, and especially as it is one of the largest religions in the world, it would be very interesting to see that. It would also be interesting, what if you could pick two and hop down to observe the time, in 30 BC or 80, I mean, and then possibly move forward and see Muhammad, and the prophet, and then see, wouldn't that just be interesting to see?
Very, very much.
Like the two largest religions, as far as I know, in the world, the Muslim faith and Christianity, Catholicism, go and see those times. I think that'd be fascinating. So that's really cool. I love that you said that. Okay, so I've got another set of two questions here for you.
Okay.
What do you think they are? And when I say they, I'm referring to, let's pick one. I'm going to pick mine. What do you think Sasquatch is? What do you think Sasquatch is?
Well, I'll tell you a story. Long ago, galaxy far, far away.
Okay.
A whole lot of stuff went down, and Wookiees needed a new planet. So I told that to my daughters after they watched the 9 Star Wars movies.
My gosh.
That makes sense.
Yeah. They had to go.
No, I think that Sasquatch are most likely an offshoot of Gigantopithecus. I think that it is very much a more intelligent hominid than we give it credit for. Intelligent enough to know that it needs to stay away from people. But no, I think that they are definitely animal, 100%. This whole, how come we don't find bones or anything? We don't find bones of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, see bare bones often.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and argue over we don't have bones or we don't find fur. I'm like, whatever. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I get it. But I just feel like the stories of, a large bipedal hairy thing it's sort of the same way I look at ghosts or anything like that. If that many cultures over the entire planet in this many, eras have basically had the same exact story, it's probably something to it. So I think it's an animal, not a vegetable.
Not vegetable. Okay, flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
How about the portal jumping, the interdimensional existence, those types of things?
I love that concept. I really do. I am a fan of the multiverse, multi-dimension theory. Not even in relation to cryptids, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe some of these cryptids that we're seeing are something like that. A little. I hate to say it, but a little Stranger Thingsy, a little The Mist.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they may be, if you're familiar with the concept of tulpa energy, they may be physical manifestations or visual manifestations of a group consciousness. Very cool story about this, and I have to say it. I was at the one and only Ghostbusters event for the 35th anniversary at Paramount Studios, and Dan Aykroyd was having a Q&A. I got to sit in.
Oh.
I got to ask him a question.
Oh, come on.
It was more tied to the concept of tulpa energy giving form to something that's always been there, like Slender Man. I don't like saying the name, but there's been something like that all throughout history. Just slight variation visually and different name, obviously. But still the same thing. And he said that he thinks very much that group consciousness can shape the way energies visually form for us. We will, or almost like the concept of we're going to see what we want to see. Well, if you have so many people imagining this thing and thinking it looks like this and acts like this, maybe in order to be seen, it will take that shape. So I think that there's something to be said about that for a lot of the different cryptids out there.
Would that have something to do with influence due to circumstance, do you think? Or are you thinking beyond that?
A little bit of, I mean, bigger picture, right? I think that there was a wonderful experiment done on Kindred Spirits, which is a TV show, Amy and Adam, that used to be on Ghost Hunters with the Taps crew.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to a house where this spirit, this entity, sort of answered questions according to the mythology that was built up by the current homeowners. But they started to understand that there may also be this tulpa energy, which is, think of tulpa energy as like it's Play-Doh. It exists, but depending on what you make it is what it is. And so they spent a couple of nights there, and during one of the nights they started to invent a different story for this spirit, different backstory and name. And they came back the next night and started asking questions related to their fictional story they just made up, and that the questions started getting answered affirmatively to that. So I think that if you have enough people, if you have a culture, think like the Puckwudgies, if you're familiar with those are the Ewoks.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. If you have enough of a mental and almost an emotional belief in what this thing is, what it looks like, the energy that already exists there naturally, whether it's spiritual energy, earth energy, however you want to say it, will take shape like that, may even act like that. So I think that some of these, I think mermaids, no real scientific evidence to believe that they could exist, but maybe it's an energy of whatever that takes the form, and visually, yeah, you are seeing that.
That is an interesting concept, and not one that I've really explored a lot, but I definitely am going to. Tulpa energy. How do you spell that? T-O?
I think it's Tulpa.
Okay, Tulpa. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to look into that, and that's fascinating. Do you believe? So we're going to stick with Sasquatch then. Do you believe that we need to have hard proof or evidence, or do you think we should not?
I think that when the scientific community points fingers at things like cryptozoology, Sasquatch, Nessie, things like that, and says, yeah, but you don't have any proof. You may have some evidence that's hit or miss, but you don't have any proof that proves its existence. Okay. Gravity, evolution, these are still classified as theories. So if you're willing to take evidence, granted, much heavier evidence, but if you're willing to take evidence and accept something as a reality, even though it has not been scientifically proven, I'm doing a whole lot of hand gestures that the camera's not picking up.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't know what to do with my hands.
I'm a hand talker too.
So I don't think we need, personally, I don't need proof to believe it exists. To know, in my sense, to know it exists. I think that much like aliens or ghosts, I think that eventually we will have it. But I'm not in some mad dash to see it. It's there. When we see it, we'll see it.
Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I think you and I could probably talk for a couple more hours, which we will. We will be in touch. But I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, you can follow Adam on Instagram at Creature Kids Books, and if you've got a kiddo interested in learning about the world in a fun way, please check out his work. This is so exciting. I can't wait to get my kids seeing this. And what I really love about it is that you are creating not only something that's healthy for children, but draws in adults and is also based on some research, if you will, or a history of that cryptid or creature. And I think that is a powerful, you've hit the trifecta is what you've done. And
that's my goal.
And not many people can do that as authors. And it's a powerful thing that you're doing. Thanks again. And I want to tell everybody here, don't forget to tune into Something Cryptid This Way Comes, the stories, wherever you get your podcasts. We are doing interview series, but we're also doing the stories. I love to tell stories. I love
that Yukon episode was good.
That was pretty good. Yeah. How did you like the dancing? That was supposed to conjure some images of horror, and I hope it did.
You know, I'm not going to get into what it conjured.
Okay. Well, and I brought in this, I am a huge fan of Vikings, the show, and my people are from Norway.
You listen to Heelung?
Oh, yes. They're Dutch, but yes, I do. I've got some
Vikings are a culture, not a specific.
That's true. That's true. You need to check out Forndom. You need to Sowolo. I can never say their name right. Sowola is another one. Vondura, I'm sure.
Whatever that was.
I'm going to send you a list when we're done here. Right. But that's why I brought that music in, because even though it was in the Yukon, it felt very northern and earth to me and ritualistic. So I kind of tried to play in there. But anyway, so good. I'm glad you liked that one. That was fun. It's a little bit spooky. So those stories are going to keep coming, but I also have started to interview people, and I'm not just going around interviewing people that interview people, although I'm not, I would do that. But one of my goals is to bring in creators such as yourself, paranormal investigators, movie producers, that kind of thing. So I think that's been pretty exciting. So you can make sure, everybody, that you follow Instagram, our Instagram, PNW Sasquatch Shadows, or on Facebook at Old Mountain Media. That's old with an E, spelled as Old English, which I kind of like. And don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again. Don't forget to check out his Kickstarter. Go to his Instagram. Help Adam out. Let's get these books out there. They are fantastic. I'm already in love with the artwork. I'm in love with the story and the concept. But like I said, Adam, you've hit that trifecta. And when this happens, I am so excited to see it grow. So thanks again for being here. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, it was a blast, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Awesome. Stay safe down in California.
Absolutely. You too.
Something Cryptid This Way Comes is a production of Old Mountain Media. Visit us on Instagram at PNW Sasquatch Shadows and Facebook at Old Mountain Media.
Something cryptid this way comes.